can watch. It's on adding and subtracting fractions with different denominators. So I'm just going to do a few examples. So our first example is looking at 1/3 plus 3/4. So remember with adding fractions, you can't add the fractions unless they have the same denominator. So what we need to do is we actually need to change both of these fractions to something out of the same denominator, and that's called the lowest common denominator. Now, to find the lowest common denominator, what I tend to do is look at the biggest denominator. So we're going to look at the 4, and we say, okay, the first number that 4 goes into is 4. Does 3 go into 4? No. The next number that 4 goes into is 8. Does 3 go into 8? No. The next number that 4 goes into is 12, and 3 goes into 12. So our lowest common denominator must be 12. So what we do next is we need to change both of these fractions to something out of 12. And what we have to work out is, what did I do to the 3 to get to 12? I multiplied it by 4. So whatever you do to the bottom of a fraction, you have to do to the top of the fraction. So we do 1 times 4, which is 4. And we do the same to the other side. So what did we do to the 4 to get to 12? We multiplied it by 3. So what do we have to do to the top? The same thing. We multiply by 3. 3 times 3 is 9. Now that we've got 4/12 plus 9/12, we can add them together to get 13 over 12. And remember, we don't leave the fraction as an improper fraction. We need to change it to a mixed numeral. And to do that, we say how many 12s fit into 13. It goes in once, so we've got one whole with 1/12 left over. So that's example 1 finished. Our second example is looking at 3/5 plus 1/4. So again, we need to find the lowest common denominator. To do that, we're looking at the 5 this time, and we're trying to work out a number that both 4 and 5 fit into. First number that 5 goes into is 5. 4 doesn't fit into 5 evenly. The next number that 5 goes into is 10. 4 doesn't go into 10. 15. 4 doesn't go into 15. But 4 goes into 20. So we change both of these to a fraction out of 20. And we have to do the same thing as we did before. What did we multiply the 5 by to get to 20? So we did times 4, which means we have to do the same to the top of this fraction. 3 times 4 is 12. Then we do the same to this side. What did we multiply the 4 by to get to 20? We did it times 5, so we have to do the same to the top. 1 times 5 is 5. Now that we've got 12/20 plus 5/20, we end up with 17/20 altogether. Okay, we check to see if we can simplify. We can't simplify 17 over 20, so that's our final answer. The third example I want to do with you guys is a mixed numeral example. So we've got 3.5 plus 1 5/8. So what we do when we have mixed numerals, the easiest thing to do is make sure we change them to improper fractions first. So to change them, we multiply the 2 and the 3. So multiply the denominator by the whole number, and then we add on the numerator. So we do 3 times 2 is 6, plus 1, that's 7 over 2. And we do the same here. 8 times 1 is 8, plus 5 is 13 over 8. Now we need to find a lowest common denominator. So again, we're looking at the biggest one, the biggest number, so that's 8. First number that 8 goes into is itself. Does 2 go into 8? Yes, it does. So our lowest common denominator for this one is 8. Now, if we have a look at our second fraction, it's already over 8. so we don't have to do anything to that fraction, but we need to fix this first one. What did we multiply the 2 by to get to 8? We multiplied by 4, so we have to times the top by 4 as well. And 7 times 4 is 28. Now we've got 28 eighths plus 13 eighths, so altogether we have 41 eighths. And we need to make sure we change that to a mixed numeral, so we say how many times does 8 go into 40? That's 5, so we have 5 wholes with 1 left over. So we've got 5 and 1/8 as our answer. So when we do subtraction of fractions, it's the same principles as the adding. So we've got an example here of subtracting. I'll just do one example of subtraction because it is very similar, same process as addition. So we have 5/7 take away 1/3. Again, need to find lowest common denominator. So we're looking at the 7. First number that 7 goes into is 7, and 3 doesn't fit into that. The next number that 7 goes into is 14, but 3 doesn't fit into that either. The next number is 21, and 3 goes into 21. So our lowest common denominator is 21. We change both of these fractions to a fraction out of 21. So we say, what did we do to the 7? We multiplied it by 3, so we have to do the same to the top. Now, if you have to draw in your arrows, by all means do so. Okay, as you get more confident, you won't need to do the arrows, but for now, if you need to, by all means do so. What did we do to the 3 to get to 21? We multiplied by 7, so we have to do the same to the top. 1 times 7 is 7. So now we've got 15 over 21, take 7 over 21. We're left with 8 out of 21. And if we check to see if we can simplify, 8 and 21 don't have anything in common, so that is our final answer. Okay, so just some main points to remember when we're adding or subtracting fractions. The denominators must be the same. So the first thing you need to remember to find is the lowest common denominator. The second thing, you need to adjust each fraction over the denominator. So whatever is done to the bottom must be done to the top. After you've adjusted both of the fractions, you need to add or subtract the numerators, and the last step is check if you can simplify. Once you've done that, you've got the answer. Good luck and have fun.